to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Friday, the 19th of July, 2024. This is program number 1214 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. And we are on 101.1 FM. But in addition to that, you can get us online at our website, rcistlucia.com, and also on our Facebook feed. We're streaming there live. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Be sure to like and share that as well, please, with your friends and family. And if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number. You can call in to 724-0008. That's our WhatsApp number. And you can message in as well if you so choose. Again, that number is 724-0008. Now, some birthday greetings for today. First, we want to send out some birthday greetings to Nyla Ada McLaurin, who turns 19 today. So happy birthday to you, Nyla, and we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. And that's coming from your dad, Mr. Philip McLaurin. Now, also celebrating his birthday today, Dr. Adrian Auger. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we hope that you're having a splendid birthday celebration. We also want to send some birthday greetings out to Mr. Carol Victor over in Taiwan. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we do hope that you're having a splendid one indeed. And as well to Mr. Marcellus Casabo, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, Marcellus. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Now, we're looking into history for the day. We're back in the year 1595 on this day, July the 19th. The astronomer Johannes Kepler had an epiphany and developed his theory of the geometrical basis of the universe, and that was while he was teaching at the University of Graz in Austria. In the year 1843, on this day, the steamship, the SS Great Britain, was launched. It was designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, and it was the first ocean-going craft with an iron hull or screw propeller and the largest vessel afloat in the world at that time. In the year 1848, on this day, the first U.S. Women's Rights Convention was held in Seneca Falls and in New York State, and that was organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. 1941, on this day, saw the British Prime Minister of the day, Mr. Winston Churchill, launching his V for Victory campaign. And in 2001, on this day, Michael Burnett discovered the skull of Sahelanthropus chadensis in the Jurab Desert in Chad. And that was one of the oldest known species in the human family tree, believed to be about 6 to 7 million years old. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+, need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasware and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jugozi Lanes, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome to our program for today. And of course, what has been making the headlines around the world today is what is being seen as a global information technology outage and a major impact on a number of services around the world, which have led to banks and hospitals and airlines having and struggling with the impact of just that. Effectively, it seems to have been put down to an issue by one of the global software giants, that of Microsoft, and it affected emergency services, even schools, governments, airlines ended up having issues with their arrangements at their ticketing counters. A significant blow, and it seems to be down to the issue, or at least partly stemming from a software update for Microsoft Windows operating systems issued by a third party cybersecurity firm called CrowdStrike. And it appears to have been fixed, according to CrowdStrike's CEO and Microsoft as well, indicating that the underlying issue has been addressed. Companies and authorities are still scrambling to get back to normal, however, but of course, that can very well be a pretty lengthy process. And just like when the power goes out, you can, in fact, have significant issues with respect to um, areas where you've got these backbone systems which everybody depends on. And when they go down, it can have a really major repercussion. And this is the situation that we have. And of course, we do know that quite often all these systems are running on similar software in very many instances, and of course, they all share a lot of similar resources. And in this instance, cybersecurity resources. Security is a major issue in that regard, but it really does underlie the fragility of the overall system around the world, this IT, information technology ecosystem that we are enjoying for the most part. And it is perhaps a wake up call and a reminder that it's always good to need to be able to have backups and to be able to deal with situations in other forms. And we see it in a lot of companies. Sometimes you go to a company and they've got some issues, a glitch it's affecting their system, and it's pretty much everything comes to a halt because more and more we are dependent on a digital space. And of course, it raises lots of questions regarding that. Now, I mean, it's highly interconnected. And so, in this instance, it's a software issue. But then in others, we've seen places where we've seen the impact, of course, and this is a lot of people feared that it was, in fact, maybe an attempted hacking of these networks and these systems. In fact, it seems not to be the issue. Pretty much a bug that was not caught, went live, provided to a lot of these companies and for their software to be updated, and it simply had a glitch. And that's a major, major flaw. And quite possibly, we will be hearing a little bit more as to some of the checks and the validation that has to happen before some of these things actually happen, before they actually go live, before they actually are sent out, because we can see the impact. People's flights were delayed. Tremendous delays and confusion in that regard. We've seen potentially, I'm not sure what the impact is in terms of hospital operations, but that could have had life-threatening implications in that regard. So we really are dealing with amazing loss from situations such as these. And we know right now there's a push towards digital currencies. There's a push towards pretty much everything going online. Remote working is what is becoming the norm for many sectors around the world. And of course, even in terms of how we save information, how we back up things to the cloud. And yes, invariably, it's going to happen. It's continuing to happen. It's going to that rollout is not going to stop, but there has to be um, the backups. There has to be the backup and the redundancies to be able to deal with these types of situations when things go awry. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll be taking in your calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tells for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tells for your balcony. Come down to Tells Plus satisfaction guarantee. Tells Plus, Tells Plus, Tells Plus. Big tells with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tells. Come down to Tells Plus. We also got gas and vanity. Boss, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tells on island. Trust me. We are located Lunchroom in Castries. Bosses, you Grizzly, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tells Plus.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. And of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 4523046. Again, 4523046 is the number to call in. You can also message in via WhatsApp. And of course, that is 724-0008. Let's go to the phone lines. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom. And what's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Calix.
Hi, caller. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And I have something that is a situation for a public situation. I want to give you that information.
So you have a public situation. Okay, go ahead.
You are right. You see, if you haven't noticed that your way, I will give you some information so to be aware. You see, by marketing board to go to the garden.
The Jabapti Street, yes. Uh-huh.
The Chinese do the U Golvet. That's how I call it. Before they do they do the pond and the U to reach in by the Jabati Street by the main road, right? And the Golvet is continue from there to go by the sea.
Mm-hmm.
If you pass at the moment as I'm speaking to you, you see the pond area to reach in by the stand where the stand is there, all full of water.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that caused that water? It is the Golvet that by marketing board to join the sea that is silted at least about half. You can see because what happened is that the sea, when the sea go down, the water is supposed to go down, but the silt keeping the water up. So you can see only by the Gozele bus and the garden there, full with water, the same level. I don't know if the Ministry of Infrastructure them listen to me as I mentioned that for them to have a look because they cleaning the gutter, with a machine. But the silt go down in the Gulvet because I working on it. That is two Gulvet from the sea to come back by marketing board to reach in by Jabati Street. And that is always full with water because under it is silt. That is one part of the information. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you're referring. Yeah, I'm familiar with the drain that you're talking about, which leads. It comes from the retention pond in the Georgia Fifth Park, the Gardens, and it runs to west towards Jabaptiste, the Darling Road. It crosses in the Darling Road and continues along the south side of Jabaptiste Street, right in front of the CDC.
Right.
The Darling Road apartment buildings that are there, and so
right.
So you're saying that it's clogged.
That done in 2006. So I wonder when that's working on that, and that now supposed to be desilted from the sea with a machine. Then was second machine they had to have the technology and what in that with our machine like I can already. And that's supposed to be desilted. And they have another one again. I don't know how that one is, but let me explain how I see it was before 2006. You see what the taxi stand is?
You're talking about the taxi stand next to the Castries Market.
So that taxi stand, when you pass it to Finby, they used to have I don't forget the name of the building. That is where the Granville bus stand is there. If you pass there, they always have seawater on the road.
I'm familiar with that drain too. You're talking about, right? So that drain comes from New Village. In fact, I think it is.
That's
It
correct.
comes
So
from New
that
Village, and then it goes down to the chaussee, right?
and you go down and you go down
and then
reaching by
it
by the
runs
by the
along.
arcade.
It runs along Jeremy Street, below Jeremy Street, all right?
Right.
And then it meets up, well, around Chisel Street, the junction of
Just
Jeremy Street and Chisel Street. And then it continues. It meets another drain. There's another drain, a diagonal drain that cuts across there as well.
right. So what happened is that one of them silted. Let me explain how he silted. Because you see that water that's on the road, people passing on, and they don't know what kind of water it is. That is seawater. So what happened? The pump, the garden pump, you see, sorry, not garden, sorry. The pump they have by the arcade. The pump with when they have a lot of water to pump. But I don't know what is the problem in the night. The water stay in the road about almost 1 feet high in the road, and people passing on it with the vehicle, and that is seawater. So they have tried to clean that pump somewhere by the you see where the clock by the market there. Some of wrong here. That's supposed to be silted with sun and that cause the water to stay on top before it going down. So all this information I give there, that I work in when they used to do the drain in the garden, and that's where we used to store our thing by the taxi stand. And they have clean water there. You see there, they have a well that have water that is not seawater.
Where is that?
It's exactly where the taxi stand is there. They have a well long time ago. You remember
so?
they used to have a well in St. Lucia, a well where people taking water underground. You don't know what is a well?
That's reclaimed land, though.
That's the same taxi stand. They have one. I not see what I
You're talking about near the roundabout?
No, not. Okay, let me explain again. Well is something that they have a lot of that in Babylon.
Yeah,
so
I know what a well is, but then where is the well located?
Okay, that it is by the taxi stand in Castries.
But which taxi stand?
But okay, the one I mentioned a while ago where the seawater is, that is some by the Granville bus stand.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. That's the northern end of Coral Street.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
So they have a well there. So that's well that let me know that well is normal water, and all water that is around it is seawater.
I wasn't aware that there was a well there, but that's interesting.
You can find out from that's why radio is there for educating and entertaining. So when people like me can say these things, somebody else will call and say, yes, there is a way. We'll take water from it. And you cannot put concrete with seawater, with normal water. They call it in Creole, Lolu.
That's very interesting. I wouldn't have thought that there would have been a well there, but that's very interesting.
They have one. That's a long time.
Well, I do hope. I'm not too sure if I assume it's Ministry of Infrastructure that's responsible, but and maybe the Castries Constituency Council as well.
Right. Because let me give you a simple example. I don't know if that is a thing that affecting government. You see, a number of consultants they have is not people that is in the 1940s and the 1950s. It is people that is trained by education, not educating. So when you you're waiting for them people to give you the facts for you to continue the development. They're taking their long, and what they give you, that's not exactly what the country needed. And then you hear, I say something, government do something else. You understand what I say?
Not exactly, but
that's how it check to my mind.
Yeah, I mean the problem of drainage in Castries has been a perennial one, and that area, was one of the last areas to actually be reclaimed in the city of Castries.
Yeah, it's my credit that one.
Okay, so take care, caller. Thanks very much for that contribution. Have a good one.
All right, you do.
All right, and of course that has been a challenge of developing Castries, which of course for the most part has been reclaimed. It was effectively just a mud flat, and over the years from the 1760s and onwards, there were just these various phases of reclamation of the city itself. Of course, in the 1880s, that section maybe 1870s, 1880s. That section around where it's today now, the market and the Darling Road apartments, that entire area was reclaimed around that. In fact, it was at that time known as the New Reclamation Grounds, and there were these two major drains that ran through them, heading towards the harbor, and it still is. Of course, a matter that requires continuous maintenance, continuous management. Once you're dealing with low-lying areas like Castries, it would therefore mean that you have to have a system, both of trying to keep the water out, whether it's through levees, as well as clearance of the drains, as well as pumping. And of course, that is what a number of places around the world have to depend on, whether it's in Georgetown, Guyana, or Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Definitely, these systems require continuous maintenance to deal with the force of water, which is certainly quite powerful. And of course, what compounds a lot of the issue is that of climate change, and how you're getting more intense, more regular, highly intense hurricanes and storms, weather events, which can overwhelm the capacities of these drains, as well, of course, the issues of sea level rise is certainly one which we do have to be thinking about, especially with respect to the city center, where invariably the elevation is not so great, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, not a very high elevation, and so very, very easy to be overwhelmed in terms of storm surge. And in as much as we find ourselves on the windward side, the calmer side of the island, you do get tidal surges. You do get storms that sometimes come in from that side and can certainly impact the city center. So a significant amount of real estate finds itself in that little mud flat of about 70, 80 acres. And certainly we, in the long run as a country, we have to be thinking about what is the plan for protecting it. Is it a matter that we can protect it for looking into the future? Or does it also mean that we need to start thinking about where we place our critical assets? That also is another major issue when it comes to our long-term security. And of course, when you're speaking about information technology, IT, for instance, they have to be IT centers, data centers need to be in safe places that are not prone to flooding or potential disasters. And that's another thought that we've got to be looking at as well. So critical assets definitely may not necessarily be best placed in our downtown, unless if, of course, we begin to look at the adaptations that are necessary to be able to protect those the real estate that exists in the city of Castries. But we're now actually due for a weather break, so we're going to take that in at this time.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up. What are you looking for? Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle. Okay, Ms. Razzle-Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And good afternoon. And the 12 noon weather report is as follows for the 19th of July 2024, with the presenter being Mr. Glenn Antoine. The present weather at Hiwanora Airport is cloudy with showers. Present weather at GFL Charles Airport, cloudy. Present temperature at Hiwanora, 31 degrees Celsius or 88 degrees Fahrenheit. Last night's minimum temperature at Hiwanora was 26 degrees Celsius or about 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Relative humidity at Hiwanora Airport, 77%. Wind at Hiwanora Airport blowing from the east at 21 miles per hour, or about 33 kilometers per hour, with gusts near 35 miles per hour or 56 kilometers per hour. Rainfall in the 24-hour period that ended at 8 a.m. today was as follows. Hiwanora Airport, 12.9 millimeters, and GFL Charles, 19.5 millimeters. And in terms of the total rainfall for the month of July, thus far, 174.1 millimeters at Hiwanora, and GFL Charles in the north, 210.4 millimeters. Sunset today is at 6:35 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow at 5:45 a.m. The forecast, which is valid for the next 24 hours, winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast, near 18 miles per hour, about 30 kilometers per hour, with gusts near showers. Well, the weather will be partly cloudy, skies becoming cloudy at times, with scattered light to moderate showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. The marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Tides, Castries Harbor, high at 3:25 p.m., low at 7:19 p.m. And for Vieux, 4:32 p.m., high and low at 8:46 p.m. And seas are described as moderate to locally rough, with waves and northeasterly to easterly swells between 4 to 7 feet today. Small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas. The forecast for the Les Antilles, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with scattered showers, which may be locally heavy, and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. The tropical weather outlook is as follows. Moisture and instability in the wake of a tropical wave will continue to cause cloudiness, scattered showers, and possibly isolated thunderstorms over the region during the forecast period. A plume of Saharan dust haze is expected to cause a reduction in air quality and visibility across the Eastern Caribbean over the next few days. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. And that has been our 12 noon weather report. Again, thanks to the forecaster, Glenn Antoine, and we do hope that you stay safe.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Vieux Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to our program here today for the Lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. And of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate, that number is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And also, you can message in on our WhatsApp. That is 724-0008. Now, we do have a clip which will give a bit of sense as to what is happening with the IT outage. And that is, I believe, a clip from NBC, is it? Which we will take in at this time.
So we are continuing to follow another developing story this morning. Massive tech outages impacting airlines, businesses, offices, companies worldwide, you name it. The meltdown is centered around an issue with Microsoft computers, and it's been going on for hours now. Flights have been grounded, businesses disrupted, TV channels knocked off the air, and IT experts are scrambling to make the fix. I want to bring in Chris Van Cleve and Jamil Jaffer to talk a little bit more about this. Chris, of course, is our senior transportation correspondent. Jamil is the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at George Mason University's Scalia Law School and has an extensive cybersecurity background that includes helping construct the 2015 Cybersecurity Sharing and Protection Act in the U.S. You are key because we are talking about a company that's supposed to be responsible for cybersecurity for a lot of other companies. But Chris, we're going to start with you this morning. Give us the nuts and bolts. What's the impact to travel this morning? What are Microsoft and CrowdStrike, which is really the company kind of at the center of this, what are they saying about the timeline to get this all resolved?
Well, the implications go far beyond just travel. We're talking about banks, hospitals, airlines, railroads, 911 systems, disruptions across the country and around the world. Certainly when we're talking about flying, today is going to be nightmarishly bad for a lot of people. Already this morning, over 2,600 delayed flights in the U.S. Latest numbers about 1,200 plus cancellations. Those numbers are going to continue to grow. United, Delta, and American halted all of their flights overnight. Those poor folks who were going to take the red eye from the West Coast to the East Coast, they never left the ground. They got stranded. We're seeing cancellations continue today. In theory, American, Delta, and United are slowly restarting their operations. But basically, this CrowdStrike issue disrupted their ability for their sort of the back end software to talk to each other. So they couldn't relay information they needed to dispatch the airplanes. If they can't dispatch the airplanes, they don't leave the gate. And in many cases, they're still sitting where they were last night, which is not what you want by this time of the day. Now, CrowdStrike is saying that they have identified the issue, that it was a single content update for Windows hosts. The company is making clear that it is not a security incident, not a cyber attack, and that there has been a fix, that it's been pushed out, that it is being implemented. Microsoft says on X that it's been working to reroute impacted traffic to alternative systems to alleviate the impact, and that it has been seeing gradual relief. If you're flying today, that gradual relief may not come until tomorrow, quite frankly.
All right. So, Jamil, so CrowdStrike is at the center of this. So I have a kind of a two-part question. What is CrowdStrike? And I know that they said it's not a cybersecurity issue per se, but it seems like there's a particular vulnerability when you have one company that is connected to so many other companies around the globe, so many industries affected.
Well, CrowdStrike obviously is a cybersecurity company. What they do is they provide endpoint security. So they provide agents that live on a computer system, whether it's a server or a laptop that you're using, a desktop that you're using. And that agent essentially looks for bad action, bad activity, threats, and attempts to block those threats. The way a traditional antivirus would, in some ways, it's an analogical to those type of things. But the challenge you point out is when you're deployed so broadly, protecting Microsoft Azure systems, protecting other folks' endpoints as well. When you have a challenge, whether it's a cause of a cyber attack or, as in this case, a content update that didn't process properly and cause problems, it can cause cascading outages, not just for the people who are direct CrowdStrike consumers, but for those that rely on other people that rely on CrowdStrike, in this case, the Microsoft Azure backends in the U.S. central zone. So that's, I think, the challenge here. And you're exactly right to identify this kind of supply chain vulnerability where one or two or three vendors have a problem. it can cause cascading outages down the road. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen here today.
Yeah. So, Chris, you talked a little bit about what's happening in the travel industry. I know when I got in this morning, there were some minor hiccups with the 4 a.m. show that I do. A friend of mine does radio in Canada, and they can't even go live at all. What are some of the other impacts we've been hearing about?
Well, certainly media has struggled. Any system that's relying on this CrowdStrike and Microsoft interaction, potentially could be jeopardized. I was chatting with a friend who's a TV meteorologist, and he came in to do the weather, and every screen he had was blue. That blue screen of death, they like to say. So, this has been widespread. It's certainly the travel disruptions are going to make headlines because it's a great picture, and it's super frustrating for the folks that are caught in the middle of all of this. But you're talking about across industries, from hospitals to businesses to banks to emergency systems. Your government systems, anything really where this interaction went askew could see disruptions today.
Jamil, because the impact is so widespread, there's a possibility that, some in Congress, some government oversight body might want to be talking to CrowdStrike to find out what went wrong and how to ensure that it doesn't happen again. If you were crafting the questions for lawmakers who were interested, what are some of the key questions you'd be asking?
Well, it's funny you should ask that question. I recently was appointed to serve on the DHS Cyber Safety Review Board, so we may, in fact, be called upon to look into this question. But the questions that I think anybody would be inclined to ask about this is, okay, how did this happen? What caused it? How can we mitigate these things from happening in the future? Does CrowdStrike almost certainly has a robust process on the back end before they deploy an update to ensure that it's going to work on all systems. It's clearly working on Mac and Linux systems. It's not affecting anything but these Windows systems. But of course, Windows makes up a significant portion of the endpoints that they're protecting. So it's obviously causing issues. What went wrong in that process, if anything? Was it the cause of a downstream vendor to them? It doesn't look like it right now. And again, it's early days, so we don't know what we don't know. But based on what CrowdStrike itself has said, it appears it's a problem in this content part of this update that they pushed. And so how can you avoid that thing from happening again? And how do we protect other vendors from having similar issues, particularly where there's these supply chain dependencies, Microsoft on CrowdStrike and a lot of people on Microsoft and some on CrowdStrike directly.
All right. Chris Van Cleve and Jamil Jaffer, thank you so much, gentlemen.
And that gave some perspective there as to the challenge, of course, that is going on. And it's an ongoing matter. It's, I suppose, a programmer's worst nightmare that you've gone live with an actual software change, and it's actually it's got significant fixes still. And it's going to be really interesting to see how what really was the issue at the end of the day. And how it has gotten to that extent where, as has been pointed out, it's cascading into so many different sectors that are depending on this. Of course, the liability issues, we're going to have to wait to hear what is going to be said about that, because obviously people have been impacted negatively, and that we'll have to wait to see what is the outcome there, who's going to be suing who might end up having to pay fines on these types of issues. So certainly perhaps a very useful wake-up call. And remember, there was a time when there was a lot of interest over the Millennium Bug, and this fear of what might have happened at the turn of the millennium and whether devices will be able to handle this. And it's, of course, a little different, but of course it is related to the whole issue of software and how they are in fact designed, how it's programmed, and the implications there. So yep, people do get it wrong in these fields sometimes, and I suppose this is one of those moments, unfortunately, where it is pretty painful to see how it goes forward at this point. And of course, the question is, why was it not caught even earlier before it actually went out live? I think we've got another little piece coming from the BBC that also gives some context. And maybe we could have a bit of a listen to that one. There's a BBC piece as well. Yeah, we could take a listen to this one as well.
It's being implemented in large, well-resourced. Well, I think it depends on the organization. So we're already seeing that fix being implemented in large, well-resourced, quite wealthy companies like American Airlines. They say they've managed to put that fix on their machines and they are back to basics where they were. But of course, with an issue like this, especially with an airline, there will be a backlog and the delays will cause further chaos for days to come. But I think the issue we've got is when there are large organizations that are perhaps under-resourced in their IT departments. So for example, if you've got tens of thousands of computers or endpoints, as they're called in the cybersecurity world, you need to get all of those back up and running. And I'm hearing that this is not a case of doing an automatic update in the same way that it happened overnight. So the automatic update went out by CrowdStrike onto computers around the world, and no one even had to do anything. This is a case of fingers on keyboards. So this requires IT technicians going to many of the computers, in fact, most of the computers, and getting their fingers on the keyboards, doing a reboot, putting it into safe mode, downloading the new correct CrowdStrike update to try and fix the problems. And there are ways around it if it's, for example, a server, if there's a cluster of servers inside an IT company. I've been told that it is possible to do this with some sort of over-the-air, over-the-internet type fix, but that's rare and it still has to be done on every single computer. So I think although we now have a fix, the real problem is, how do you get that fix onto computers? Huge questions to be asked of this company when the dust settles. And already we're seeing the company being hit where it hurts on their share price, lost a fifth of their value already this morning, and that's before some markets have opened. So this is a company now scrambling not only to fix the current situation, but also their reputation and their brand. It was and is one of the biggest cybersecurity companies in the world, famous for its very good and well-trusted endpoint protection, so the protection on computers around the world. But it's all about trust. And that trust has been affected by today, no doubt, because the irony here is that in cybersecurity, we're always being told to install the updates, whether that's personally on our phones or laptops, when an update comes in from Apple, for example, or Google. That's because the updates are there to protect us. They're there to fix any potential bugs, fill up any security gaps, and to make things run smoother. Here, of course, doing the right thing got you in lots of trouble. If you had automatic updates on with CrowdStrike overnight, you would wake up to an issue here that's bringing down entire companies. So yes, huge questions to ask of CrowdStrike. The way these things work, of course, is that there will be a team of engineers that wrote this update, wrote the software, the code over the last few weeks or months, and it would be sent out last night after lots and lots of checking. So CrowdStrike would have put it onto lots of computers and seen whether or not it affects anything. Somehow something's gone wrong in that safeguarding process, and it's gone from the test bed, the sandbox of the internal computers at CrowdStrike, into the wide world and caused these massive problems. Windows is being really careful to distance itself from these problems. They're saying that this is not our problem, this is not our fault. Well, it is their problem, of course. They're helping to try and fix this, but they're saying this is nothing to do with our system. This is a CrowdStrike issue. And I think that is fair because, of course, CrowdStrike, when they make a new piece of software, they have to make it for all the different operating systems. So that's Windows, Linux, Mac. And I think the reason why Windows has perhaps proven the most difficult is because perhaps that's the largest group of customers that they have. They're running Windows. And for some reason, there is something to do with the bespoke code that's done for Windows that has not affected Linux or Mac. I would argue, though, that probably there are fewer customers using those particular operating systems. And people are asking today, how does this affect me? Do I need to watch out for when I turn on my computers? The answer to that is probably not, because CrowdStrike has built its giant company through enterprise. So that's going after these big organizations like American Airlines and like others that are responsible for thousands or tens of thousands of usually Windows computers. Interestingly, I've just spoken to an IT manager who is scrambling around and struggling and very, very stressed out for a medium-sized organization in this country, in the UK. And he's responsible for 4,000 computers. but it's given me an idea of just how stressful it is for him, because he says that once you are fingers on keyboards on a computer, it is a quick fix. You have to press a few buttons, put it into safe mode, and then you can download the correct CrowdStrike software and everything's fine. But the problem is, he says, we've got computers spread across 5 different sites. So that means you have to physically drive from one to the next to fix this problem. People are saying that the closest we'll get to this, I think, was 2017 with the WannaCry cyber attack. That was a deliberate and malicious cyber attack that affected about 300,000 computers in 150 countries. But that was stopped, and that meant that the virus stopped spreading and that people could rebuild from there. What we're seeing here, of course, is that if an IT manager hasn't seen the news today and they're waking up, for example, in the US, they turn on the computer, they're going to get the blue screen of death.
And that update coming from the BBC on this matter, which of course is still ongoing as a number of companies around the world are trying to get back to normal regarding this IT outage. And of course, unfortunately, there are people who would have been catching flights and who would be stuck somewhere that they really should not be at this time. And so we do feel for them. And a lot of other challenges that are going on. No doubt we'll be hearing a lot more about this come next week. Before we end the program, just want to send out condolences to the family of the late Miss Rosemary Cooper, who passed just a few days ago. And she was, in fact, for many, many, many years, the head of the Catholic Television Broadcasting Service, and gave a very long-standing service in the field of media through the CTBS. And unfortunately, she has passed. And we definitely do want to extend our condolences to her family, her colleagues, her friends, all those who loved and admired her. So may she rest in peace. That's our program for today here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. We'll be back again next week, God willing, for another week of programming. Hope you can join us for that. Have a good weekend.